Namaste, sir.
Namaste, namaste. Shall we wait for some more time or we will start?
So we can
I'm ready. You can decide.
start. Shall we start?
Yes, I'm ready.
Thank you, sir. Namaskar to all of you. Today, on the behalf of Team AyuScholar, I, Dr. Charu Sharma, is here to host this webinar, Education in Ayurveda, a Call for Action. Education is the process of facilitating learning, acquisition of knowledge, skills, values, beliefs, and habits. And when it comes to medical education, it becomes an integral part of practice. And it is a responsibility of a clinician, a practitioner, a Vaidya to deliver his or her duties with a noble heart and intelligent mind. So today, on this occasion, I would like to welcome Vaidya M. Prasad sir. Sir is the director and chief physician of Sunethri Ayurvedashram, Thrissur, Kerala. Sir is also guru in Rashtriya Ayurveda Vidyapeedham, New Delhi. Sir has been previously serving as the principal of Ashtamgam Ayurveda Vidyapeedham in Kerala. And he studied the philosophy, basic principles, and practice of Ayurveda and the Vaidyabhushanam Padmabhushan K. Raghavan sir for 21 years. And he also studied Clinical Ayurveda under Padmashree K. Rajagopal sir. Today, we are very blessed to have you, sir, with us. So your mic is...
Okay, now it's clear.
Yes,
You had muted me. Okay. So thank you very much for the introduction. And I'm really happy to be with you all in this fine evening to discuss something about education, Ayurveda education, which is always a matter of passion for me. So first of all, I would like to thank Dr. Charu Sharma for this invitation and the team AyuScholar. I understand that you are conducting a lot of similar programs, if I understood it right. So congratulations for that. So we can proceed, I think. I have not, I see in a casual chat with Dr. Charu Sharma, I mentioned that I will not be answering any of the points with my brain. Instead, I will try to answer them with my heart, because the subject is so close to my heart than close to my brain. And I have come unprepared, because I think a preparation makes me somewhat diplomatic, somewhat very formal, because I don't want to discuss anything very formally. This is a something like a very closed room discussion or an in-house discussion among Ayurvedists. We have to dissect ourselves and see what the core things are, and where we need a correction, where we need an updation, all these things. So it will be a dialogue between hearts, not between brains. So I'm really thankful for the this wonderful evening. So I think if you are ready, we can start. I'll be a patient listener.
Thank you so much, sir, for your humble and kind words. So we shall be starting with, I would like to first of all introduce the theme of this program to all the participants here. Many of our participants are teachers, most of them are students who are doing their undergraduation, either they are internees, and many of them have done their graduation recently. So this is the type of audience that we have got today. And I'll be taking the way through navigating the challenges that we are facing in the current scenario in the field of education in Ayurveda, and simultaneously we will be having Prasad sir for the suggestions and for the guidance that how can we take it through. So, you know, first of all, we need to understand that yes, this is the 21st century, and yes, people are talking about that Ayurveda is it in its golden era, and we are progressing on some grounds. And yes, people are encouraging the practice of Ayurveda. There's globalization, and yes, we are proceeding it, and we are taking our science to many levels. But at the same time, this was a period of pandemic, and we need to understand that this was the time where in many parts of India, Ayurveda practitioners were restricted from practicing in this period of pandemic. So we need to understand the scenario here, the dilemma here, that on one ground we are talking about the growth, and on the same grounds we are restricting our practitioners from practicing in a kind of in a kind of hour where actually we are needed. So considering this scenario in mind, so this whole program is designed on the same theme, that yes, there are opportunities, but at the same time we are lagging behind somewhere. And could it be and yes, we can also say that we are lagging behind on the grounds of education, because when it comes to education, you can only practice what you have learned in all those years of education. And so I'll be just quoting a few researches that have been conducted in the same domain, and these are the domains of educational reforms. Okay, so there was one study. It was a survey that has been conducted by the researchers of BHU. Patwardhan sir was there, and it was a survey which investigated the challenges that are being faced by the graduates and the practitioners of Ayurveda, and the grounds were Ayurvedic education. At the same time, there was another study that was conducted so as to interrogate that how well are the graduates exposed to the basic clinical skills. And there was another study which was conducted by Sanjeev Rastogi sir, and it was basically an addressal that we need human resources to optimize the delivery of care, to optimize the delivery of research practices in Ayurveda. So these are the basic researches that have been conducted in this field. And along with that, our team also conducted a very short survey, and it was based on the components of education, knowledge, attitude, and practice. So there were two parts of the study. Survey one was conducted on 30 students of final year BMS, and another survey that was conducted on 80 students of BMS graduates who recently graduated, like in 2019, before the pandemic period. So, sir, I'll be just presenting the result of one part of the study. I'm not taking the whole study, but I'll be just pointing out the problems that the students are facing, or maybe the scenario that we can go through. There was one question: what have you been doing after your internship? And this is the time when they completed their internship, like in the late months of 2019, and in the early months, that is before the pandemic, of 2020. So 70% of those 80 students were just preparing for exam. There was not a direct output of their any practice, or they did not have any link to the to practice or any other job during that period. And so it has been like more than a year that they have been preparing for an exam, let it be a UPSC exam or post-graduation exam. So 70% students were doing that, were contributing their time in this domain. Another 15% of students, we found that they were doing jobs in private sector, and mostly of them were doing allopathic practice in various nursing homes and other setups. and 5% of them were involved in some kind of government job, like they were serving as a senior research fellow, junior research fellow in many research institutions, and some were in the temporary medical officer jobs, and only 10% of them were doing Ayurveda practice after completing their graduation. So this is the scenario, and now we need your input, sir, on this result of on this part of the result.
Okay. I would say that there is no wonder in this. This is quite an expected result as far as the survey is concerned. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Because see, in the present scenario, Ayurveda or BAMS is a professional course, and by default, professional course is supposed to be something which will make somebody a professional after the graduation, and the seekers or the aspirants are also coming with that intention that at the end of the day they will be becoming obviously some sort of a professional, and that professional means somebody who can live with their own enthusiasm, their own entrepreneurial ventures or whatever it is, and they need not run after the jobs. But at the same time, after certain period through their graduation, maybe in the 5.5 year course period, they are not developing into that sort of a professional. And at the end of the day, practically the BIMS graduates, they end up in some sort of an insecure feeling, insecurity. And then they obviously seek for shortcuts. So this 70% of the students preparing, or the graduates preparing for their higher education, especially MD entrance examination, if I understood it right, uh, is actually escaping from their challenges of the life, at least for the next 3 years. So they are finding a new hideout for themselves. Why do they seek for the post graduation? They may not be having any specific answer for that. They are just doing it because at least for another 3 years they need not run after a job or something like that. But of course there are challenges, and this 70%, if there is a gender wise classification, obviously most of them will be girls. I do not know whether you have included it in your survey. And
Yes,
obviously, I
sir.
think it should be, because most of the students entering into the UG class, they are also girls. So it is quite natural. And in that 15% who is seeking that allopathic practice or some sort of a private job, majority of them will be boys. And for them, BIMS is obviously a shortcut for allopathic practice. Even if they want to get some sort of a management quota or self-financing college seat, it will obviously cost maybe a few lakhs, if not crores. So getting a BAMS in a private college, in a self-financing college, can be much less expensive than getting through an MBBS seat. So they find it as a shortcut to get into allopathic practice. And in certain cities, in certain states where there is no very strict enforcement of the law, that one system, graduates in one system should not be practicing other system, or in certain such states it is permitted. In certain states, even though it is not permitted, they don't care because for the lack of human resource. So I think that 15% percentage go with that. And the 5% job sector, forget about them. They will be seeking some sort of an umbrella always. They don't want to be in the sun. So obviously, I think a 5%, that may be 15% of 20%, if I think the number of vacancies are high. But obviously the government job opportunities also limited, so obviously there will be 5%. And then 10% Ayurveda practice actually makes me a little bit astonished. I never expected it to be so. I thought it would be some 6 to 7%. So this picture shows where we are, where our education is, what the ultimate purpose our education system is serving. So it is actually a mirror of what and where we are.
Thank you, sir. So now moving on to the
Unmute the mic. Yes.
now moving on to the the attitude section of education. We there was a question: what is your goal? Where do you want to see yourself in next 5 years? So 50% of them, they said they have not decided yet. There was another part. There was another group of students who wanted to be who wanted to get into Ayurveda government jobs, either through doing PG, or let it be without PG, BMS medical officer job, or there is a default option whenever you go for post graduation. There's a default option of being a teacher in any institution. So another 30% were ready to practice in allopathic sector only, and only 20% of them wanted to be core Ayurveda practitioners, and they wanted to propagate their practice through Ayurveda only.
Yeah, again, I think this is an extension of the previous slide, I should say. And if I understood right, here there are 30 percentage who are willing to practice, isn't it? 30 percentage.
30% in allopathy and 20% in Ayurveda.
Okay, it is so. Fine. So what about that academics?
So academics, through securing a medical job or post-graduation, these 40% were included in the domain who wanted to pursue a government job, either without PG or with PG. So that was their goal.
Okay. Again, I think that 50% of not decided yet, that shows again the way in which the course is ending up. I have a very interesting experience. I was invited to a some sort of a college function of fresh BAMS students. I was asked to talk to them on the maybe during their induction period, and it happened to be a gathering of all students, not the freshers, but everyone, including the final year students. And I had a lecture maybe for some 45 minutes or 1 hour or so, and then we kept some time for asking some doubts or questions. So it was quite an interesting session. All those freshers who got entered into the course, they came up with hundreds of questions, like what will be the job prospects, how much salary I can expect if I complete BAMS, then whether I can go abroad with Ayurveda. So there were n number of questions, whereas the final year students had no questions at all. So that is the transition happening from first year to final year in a BAMS course. Every student is getting into the BAMS with lot of expectation, lots of enthusiasm, dreaming a very lucrative career in their future. But by the time they reach their final year classes, they lose all the hope, the confidence, the enthusiasm. They have no questions. So that not decided yet group is that particular group of graduates who has no, or who have no light on the other end of the tunnel. They are still in the dark zone of their life. They have to find out some rays of hope. They have to evolve into their own persona to find way forward. Whereas the others, maybe out of the pressure of the situations or the circumstances, they may be running after some MO job or allopathic job, fine. But that 50% not decided, that should not be the case in a professional graduation. They should have their own plans. They should have at least their entrepreneurial dreams or practice oriented life ahead. But that is not happening. Again, these are the things which we have to seriously discuss about.
Ji, sir. Now this is the last question that I'm going to discuss now. So this is related to the practice domain. A question was asked, which source would you refer when you are not clear about the diagnosis of the patient? You have completed your graduation, you are sitting in OP, and there you get to encounter a patient and you're not clear about the diagnosis. So the default, obviously, option would be Google. Other than that, there were 30% of students that they said they would refer their clinical method Hutchison. Another 5%, they would refer MacLeod's or Chamberlain. And there was just 5% of population, they said that they would refer their Swadhyay Grantha. In many of the students, it was Ashtanga Hridaya, Sushrut Samhita, or
Whatever it is.
Yeah, yes, sir. So, and the most interesting part is that, yes, they were honest. Actually, they could have just marked Samhita, but they were honest. We should appreciate that.
Exactly, we should respect it. This is quite natural. This is quite natural, because you see, why are you referring? You are referring with the expectation that you will get an answer. So obviously your choice will be something where you get an answer. So the way, see, when you are supposed to see, you are on a path or a travel, and at one point you have a confusion which way to go. You are in a junction or a juncture. So maybe one way looks, one that division or that branching of the road looks more good in its texture, and it is little bit cozy in appearance, and more vehicles are going through that way, whereas the other one looks maybe a little bit jerky, and very few traffic is there in that route. So obviously you will be inclined to select the road which is having more traffic, more people, more cozy ambience and everything. That is what is exactly happening here also. And interestingly, if your question is, say for example, what is the third drug in Dadimadi Kridam? If that is your question, I don't think that you will refer MacLeod or Davidson or Hutchison. You will go to Ashtanga Hridaya. But unfortunately, that very, very rarely, very scarcely, that becomes your question. Instead, most often the patient will be coming to you with a diagnosis, which you may not be heard about before. So how can you expect the answer in Ashtanga Hridaya? Ashtanga Hridayam or Charaka Samhita or any of the classics, it is not a ready reckoner. It is more like a template, whereas Hutchison is a ready reckoner. Google is a ready reckoner. So while you are going to refer Ashtanga Hridayam or Charaka Samhita, you will get only a template. You will not get answers. You will have to put your brain. You will have to make some sort of a algorithms out of the template, and there is every chance that you go wrong. So the road is a bit scary. It is minimum traversed or traveled by people. So obviously you tend to go for Google or clinical methods or MacLeod's, where things look more. But my question is whether that information which you gather from Google or Hutchison is effective in your trade, whether that can be used in the level in which you are supposed to use the information. If not, then what are you doing with that information? How do you translate that information into application? So that is where the formative period of a Vaidya is becoming crucial. Whatever is imprinted as some sort of a cultural imprint, what we call as samskara, during the formative period of a Vaidya, that is going to be his basic identity as a Vaidya. We call Vaidya as Dvija. Dvija means somebody who has taken a second birth. That second birth is after transformation, after learning the Shastra. So if, say, honestly, I'm telling, 100% honestly, I'm telling, I have not seen a Hutchison in last 20 years. Or I have not referred any of the allopathy textbooks. I'm not claiming it as a big credit. Don't mistake me. Because I am forcefully trying to delete whatever I have gathered even in my maybe college days or so. Because that information is no more worth in understanding a clinical situation in an Ayurvedic way. So even to the patients who come up with all these reports or that syndrome, this syndrome, I ask them to keep all the papers with them at least for another 15 minutes and tell me about what their problem is. Then I make my own conclusions and then only I look for the papers which is mainly for their satisfaction. Otherwise, they will feel that this guy is not understanding what we are talking about. So it is all about the formative period, the formative samskara, which is so crucial as far as the formation of a Vaidya is concerned. That is where our undergraduate education needs some sort of a big change, I should say.
Yes, sir. So these were the outcomes
If
that.
I'm not clear, you can come up with sub questions or sub points, no issue.
Yes, sir. So now the scenario is a student who entered in first year BMS or second year BMS, if he has seen everyone around him with these particular books in hand, so how would they gather the courage to move into another domain when he's not very much aware about that kind of practice? So this is one of the challenges that students usually face. And yes, we see demographic variations as well. When it comes to North India, there's a whole different kind of practice when it comes to Ayurveda. When we go to Maharashtra, when we go to South India, when we go to Kerala, so these are the demographic variations that we see in the attitudes of the patients as well. Because when we enter a post graduation college, like, we have students from various parts of India. So we can understand the difference on their how a student approaches to the patient in different ways. So there is that is a challenge, that there is no uniform kind of teaching methodology also. And what we see, what we experience, that is also very, very different in different parts of India as well.
That is true. That is true. And uh, there is no point in blaming the students in that aspect. They are ready. If I understood it right, students who are coming for Ayurveda these days are much energetic, much more brilliant, and much more enthusiastic than the students who used to come maybe some 25 years back. So they have the energy, they have the enthusiasm. You just look into the PG dissertation works that our scholars are taking up. They come up with lot of energy. Even after BAMS, they fight for their PGC. They come up and they enter into the PG, and you see, they look for dissertation works like developing a management program for multiple sclerosis, or Ayurvedic management line of motor neuron disease. Can you expect an MD in allopathy will come up with such a daring position like looking a remedy for multiple sclerosis? They will never do it. They won't even see a multiple sclerosis patient during their MD studies. They will refer it to their neurology head. They may be seeing how the professor is examining the case or working up with the case. Our postgraduate entry level postgraduates are planning about finding a remedy for multiple sclerosis and winning a Nobel. So that is the energy with what they are coming actually. But unfortunately, forgive me if I am wrong, I am also a teacher. Our teachers are not good for the trade. That is again is not the teachers to be blamed for that. They are not formed as excellent teachers. At least you see a teacher who is having maybe 25 years or 20 years of teaching experience should have a thorough command on the principles and practice based on at least one textbook. Forget about everything. They should have a clear-cut idea about what Chigilsa Prabhradiyam. What do you mean by Chigilsa Prabhradaha? They should have an excellent idea about what is Swabhavoparamam all about and how this is going to be the heart of Ayurvedic practice. You see, this culture is contagious. If the teacher is having that culture, all the students will obviously contract it. But we do not have a form or a platform where excellent teachers are groomed. That is not happening. A post-graduation is not supposed to be the basic qualification for becoming a teacher. Technically, that may be. But as you put in one of the previous slides, that attitude, knowledge, and practice, they are to be counted. So excellent students, excellent graduates, excellent professionals are the spontaneous or natural products of excellent teaching mechanisms, excellent teachers. In the earlier days, students were non-exclusively based on their lineage of Gurukulam. So that was the strength that they were inheriting from their lineage of gurus. So we have to have excellent teachers, not the excellent infrastructure, excellent buildings, excellent that projection facility or nothing like that. We have to have excellent teachers. Then maybe in next 10 years, the scenario will change. But when I say that Vruddhi Samane Sarvesham Viparida Viparya in the classroom and going to my private clinic and practicing with the allopathic medicines and that way of thinking, how will be your students be charmed out of it? So that is the crisis.
Like you always say, preach what you practice.
Exactly. That should be a samskara.
Yes, sir.
And there are many other reasons. Obviously, there will be social reasons, economical reasons, political reasons. The other day I was reminding one concept again and again. In India, unfortunately, especially in independent India, till recent years, Ayurveda did not get any political patronage. I was reminding it, 2020 was an year which actually the 100th year of a historical resolution. In the year 1920, Indian National Congress Nagpur Summit resolved to consider Ayurveda as the national medical system of India. But later, when India became independent, our first health minister, Rajkumari Amrit Kaur, doctor herself, she was the first health minister of India. And Pandit Nehru constituted the basic committees to think about what should be the modern India, what should be the independent India. And there was obviously a discussion about what should be the health care strategy of independent India. And this health minister, Rajkumari Amrit Kaur, who was a trained allopathic doctor, had no second thought about it. And she was very categorical to mention that independent India should have only one system of medicine, and that should be Western. So the 1920 resolution of the Indian National Congress that Ayurveda should be accepted as a national system of medicine, that vanished. And last year, 2020, was the 100th anniversary of that resolution. So Ayurveda never got the kind of political patronage in India, especially in independent India. That is why it was sidelined, downgraded. So that there is a gap of some 300 years or 400 years that Ayurveda has suffered as far as its intellectual integrity is concerned. How you cannot expect to bypass these 400 years in a very short span of maybe one decade or so by introducing a new system of education or nothing like that. You have to start from the scratch. That is the issue, but it is not impossible. It is not impossible. See, government can do many things. See how things have changed all of a sudden when Ayush Ministry was established. See how things were started changing when we started celebrating Ayurveda Day. See how things all of a sudden changed when a gazette very categorically mentioned that Ayurvedists can practice surgery in certain domains.
Sir, I think there's a connection error. Okay, I think there's some issue with the connection here, so we will get back to you within a few minutes.
Am I audible now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sorry, I think something went wrong in between. So we can proceed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sorry for that. I think I will log in from another account as well. If at all this sort of a emergency comes in between, I can use that. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Sir, yes, it is a time of opportunities as we see, but now there's another question that are we competent enough to deal with these kinds of opportunities or not? So this brings us to the challenge part here. And And this calls for action, like when we are talking about knowledge. So when it comes to classical text, they need to be translated onto the tables of clinics when we need to practice. So how is that exercise going on, and what as a student can do so that they achieve this goal, that they are able to translate the text into the into practical guidelines?
Yes, actually, that is also a challenge, because one point could be the language constraint, and another point is the some sort of a pedagogical jerk. If you look into allopathic education, we can say that up to +2 level, it is precisely a pre-MBBS course. From play school through pre-KG, KG, first standard onwards, up to +2 class, it is simply a pre-MBBS course. Whereas there is no pre-Ayurvedic module in any of the sections of their earlier studies, as far as a normal standard student, BAMS first year student is concerned. And practically, the boy or girl is trained to fly under the sun in the daylight, and all of a sudden he is put in the darkness, and he is asked to fly in the night. So even though he can fly, he knows how to fly, unfortunately the situation prevailing is entirely contradictory to where or what he had learned earlier. So that is some sort of a pedagogical jerk from which he hardly comes out even by the end of his course time. So that is a big crisis. So what we resort on? We resort on some sort of a judgment. We become very judgmental. I have a yardstick with me, and that yardstick is with physics, chemistry, biology. Now, I am 17 years old or 18 years old or 19 years old. So I'm coming with this yardstick. Then on a fine day morning, somebody is coming and start speaking about Ayukameyamanena Dharmartha Sugasadhanam Ayurvedopradesheshu Vidheya Paramadara. Or sometimes if he is lucky enough, the first class itself may be about Paniniya Sutram. So he start measuring this Paniniya Sutram or Ayukameyamanena or something else with the yardsticks which is already having with him, that is physics, chemistry, biology. Whatever is appreciable, acceptable to those yardsticks, he is okay with it. Otherwise, being a victim of some sort of a faulty choice, he tries to interpret whatever is left or spilled over with his yardsticks. Again, there will be many things remaining, and he put all these things in trash. So always he is in some sort of a crisis. He finds 3 types of stuffs. Number 1, which looks scientific. Number 2, which can be scientific. And 3, trash. So the entire BIMS course for a normal student becomes some sort of a journey through these 3 stuffs. So this is a challenge. The language need not be a constraint, a big issue for a student if, as I told earlier, the teacher is strong enough or capable of circumventing this situation of crisis. There is no single line in Ayurveda which is against the human intelligence, which is against the human common sense. But the methodology, the way in which it is expressed is in a different language in a different methodology, with which the academy as a whole, including the top to the bottom, is not acquainted with or familiar with. That is why we are celebrating certain people. Somebody who knows maybe a few chapters of Charaka is a celebrity in Ayurveda Academy. Actually, there is nothing to celebrate in it. We call them swimming Charaka or walking Charaka or sleeping Charaka. Actually, there is nothing peculiar about it because every teacher is supposed to be so. He or she should have that command. Then only he can help his or her students to circumvent this sort of crisis, to make sure that the child or the student is not getting crippled. So this classical to the clinical tables, these days it is called as translational type of works. That translational type of work is the core concept of Ayurveda. See, what is the features of a Vaidya? Dakshaha tirthata shastrartho drishtakarma sujirbhishak. From Dakshyam to Drishtakarmada is what is called translational work. Unfortunately, that is not happening. That is a problem. We can change it. Am I clear?
Yes, sir. So how can we go about it on the level of a student?
What I would suggest is, you can see, we cannot wait for the entire system is becoming right. But meantime, we cannot quit. This will never become right. Quit it. Forget it. Both these stands are not right. So when you people are thinking about it, you are putting yourself in some sort of a transitional phase of this change. So what you can do is, right now you have to find certain pockets outside the academy where these sort of Ayurvedic methodology of learning and practice is still prevailing. You have to enroll yourself in such academies. Meantime, you have to bring that light to your fellow students, to the academies. Don't being arrogant. Don't trying to defaming others. Slowly, it is an infusion. And all changes, especially core changes, happen very slowly. So there are rich or abundant source of knowledge, which is practicable knowledge outside the campus. The significance of such information, such knowledge, such fraternities, that they are not exam oriented. Academy is always exam oriented. They are least bothered. That is why still we have this textbook oriented learning from day morning, from the dawn to dusk, from the morning to the evening. They don't bother about anything. And whenever a syllabus reform comes, every department head will be eager to add more topics for his subject. And more topics in the subject, they unfortunately think that more precious the learning will be. He can lock the students more time in the classroom, which is against the total concept of medical education. That should not happen. Examination, I always used to tell my students, forget about exams. Exams are toll booths in a highway. You are going to a different destination. But unfortunately, as you are using this highway, you have to pay the toll. Don't think that you're traveling to pay the toll. And after paying the toll, you are not supposed to come back. You have to continue your journey. Toll booth is not your destination. But unfortunately, our academies give a wrong notion that you're traveling to pay the toll. That is the problem.
Yes, sir. So now there's a question that what is the right methodology to study Ayurveda? So basically we have covered this this part of answer in your previous comment also, but just a specific one or two line that you would like to
yeah, I can definitely, I can say. I would say that obviously, I think passing the examinations, getting a pass is very important, because that is which is going to make you legitimate as far as your profession is concerned. Otherwise, you will be a quack, which is not supposed to happen. So you have to pass the exams. So bring in two modes of learning. One is exclusively for the exams, and one for learning, actual learning. And one method I already told: go out of the campus and find true masters of the art and science of Ayurveda who can teach you unconditionally, and start learning one text under him from top to bottom in a proper manner. In our undergraduate education, you will find all the Brihatrais and many other textbooks brought into the same syllabus under different subjects, different topics. You will have to see in the first year BAMS examinations, you will be learning three sthanas of Charaka Samhita. See the fun for the actually it's a mockery. And in the second year, you will be covering Indriya Sthana even. So that should not be the way in which a Shastra is to be learned. Undergraduate education should make a graduate confident Vaidyas and a serious aspirant of higher studies. Forget about all technicalities. And you are not supposed to be an excellent commercial manufacturer after taking your BAMS. BAMS is not meant for that. But BAMS should make you the manufacturer within you to seek for higher education in pharmacy. But at the same time, all BAMS graduates should have acquired the basics of Ayurveda and the way in which they are put into practice. Minimal. We are overloaded, overburdened. Why should we have all the rubbish stuff of Western medicine in the first year itself? There is one very important document created by Mrs. Shailaja Chandra, the former Ayush Secretary of Central Government, who was asked to prepare as part of some scholarship program or something, fellowship program, I think, about the Ayush education in India. And she had made very interesting observations. She had asked one important question: what is the purpose of teaching Western medicine for BAMS graduates? If it is for making them the real masters of that part, that should be taught in the same way those topics are taught in the Western medical colleges. If it is just for the sake of getting some information, cut down the bulk of the syllabus in that particular topics. Instead, make this bulk huge, and that being taught by second class or third class experts. You are mocking at them. So that should not happen. And you see, from an Ayurveda college, if you are spending most of your time in mastering Western medicine, from where will you master Ayurveda? All this Western information is available in plenty everywhere. As you told, in the Google, it is available, in the textbooks, it's available. Every day updates are coming. Those who are interested can go to any of these sources and master them, practice them, learn them. But from where will you get the core concepts of Ayurveda? After graduating, if you have no idea about what Ayurveda is all about? How can you expect practitioners or Vaidyas with some self-esteem? How will you say with confidence that I'm a Vaidya? So the BIMS syllabus should be as simple as possible, as practicable as possible, as precise as possible. The learning strategy should be straightforward, simple, and practice-oriented. And to the core, I have an ambition which I tried to implement at least partially in my college. Of course, it was also a part of the CCM syllabus and everything, so I have no autonomy. We have to start seeing patients in the first year itself. We have to start identifying medicinal herbs in the first year itself. And we have to start making medicines in the first year itself. These three major areas, that means clinics, medicinal plants, Bhaishajya Kalpana. You make these three topics mandatory section wise in all the 5 years. Bhaishajya Kalpana first, Bhaishajya Kalpana second, third, like that. Dravya Gunam first, second, third. Every year there should be Dravya Guna Vijnana. Every year there should be Bhaishajya Kalpana. And first year onwards, you should have clinics. And see how those graduates will come out of the college. You won't see even a single graduate without confidence. And during their internship, you expose them to any sort of modern technique or the state-of-the-art methodologies of clinical examination or whatever it is, and they will have a firm footing of Ayurveda from which they will stand seeing the world. Now a graduate is a floating log. If the wind is towards the south, the log will move to the south. If it is towards the west, the log will move to the west. That is what is happening. No identity. So we start from very simple lessons. That is how I opt for Ashtanga Hridaya. Ashtanga Hridaya has no jargons at all. No philosophical jargons. And it is all in verses, poetic verses. So you can have very easy lessons, very easy recollection, and to the core, nothing else. So you start from the very first chapter of Ashtanga Hridaya to the last line of Ashtanga Hridaya under one master in a systematic, slow manner. And even if your expertise in the modern clinical methods are limited, blessed you are, I would say. Don't take it in a wrong sense. You will be a master in Ayurveda. Then go ahead with Charaka Samhita. Go ahead with Sushruta Samhita. No problem. But you should have one textbook, some basic, simple, to the core textbook as your Sadhyaya Grantha, and you should have a mentor. That is the way in which Ayurveda should be studied. I was with my guru for 21 years. So it is not, that is why I'm telling that I am not talking with my brain. I'm talking this from my experience. Right.
Yes, sir. So another question is just a reflection of the question that we were discussing now. Right methodology to study and then right methodology to teach. So they are actually proportional,
This covered, I think.
Yes, sir. So we are going to skip this part, yes, sir. Yes, sir. There is another concern that that has been raised many times when it comes to a Gurukul system of education versus a medical system of education. Is there any scope that we should go back to that system, or we should how should we go about it? Because as I remember, there was a talk of Krishna Kumar sir, and he has been mentioning the Gurukul system of education that he had introduced a few years back. And yes, we see the students as one of the role models in our field. So, can you please elaborate on this point, sir?
Definitely. Going back to Gurukulam system is impossible. It is not practical because that does not fit into the current society in its real sense. But you can get the same effect of the olden Gurukulam in the present scenario, in the present setup also. For that, there should be some sort of an academic discipline in the academies. You should start understanding your team of teachers or whoever it is working with you properly. And we should start respecting each others. We should understand what is the capacity of my colleague in the teaching fraternity. And there should be some sort of a take and give attitude, because ultimately no academy is made out of a homogeneous type of teachers. It should not be also. It will be a heterogeneous group of experts. But in due course of time, each college should evolve as a school, as with a unique methodology of teaching, of learning, of seeing patients, of explaining cases. For this to happen, there should be some sort of a chemistry working beneath the top level, or behind the screens, I should say. For that, the change should start from the top end. Whoever is the head of the academy, the dean of the academy, or the top, they should start setting models by their own life, their own behavior, their own manners. They should not be some sort of a administrative heads who will be putting orders all the time, who will be trying to have a maximum superiority and power over the colleagues, and banning. I have seen many incidents of something like that. Some senior, I'm not going to name anybody, some senior faculty member start publishing things very frequently. Then the head of the department of that particular department actually started banning him from publishing without his consent. Then somebody who is very active in the social media, then all of a sudden the head of the department release some sort of a circular that nobody should post in the social media without my permission, like this. So this should not be the case. Some sort of an academic discipline we have to find out, and in due course we have to come up. Each academy, each college, or each institute should come up as independent schools, having their own way of doing things, their own way of putting things into practice, their own way of or strategy of teaching, everything. Then practically each academy, each institute will behave spontaneously as a Gurukulam. So that is a very rigorous activity. You should have a very keen enthusiasm to work for such a culture, and then I think it will happen. And it is not that easy to go back to the old-fashioned Gurukulam as such, where one teacher will be delivering everything in a single academy, and there is no need for other teachers, nothing like that. But deep inside, I would say that it will be good if we have one such model institute, even as an experiment, whether such a thing is possible in this present status or present situation, and what will be the outcome. Krishna Kumar ji, during that period, was bold enough to start such an academy, and at that time this sort of certification or this clearance from the central bodies and everything was not a must. He was a free bird at that time. He started the college, appointed the teachers. It was a residential institute. Only 20 students were admitted and all of them were boys. Girls were not given admission at that time. And he was spending everything for their stay, for their books, their food and everything. So it was done completely as a free of cost system. And the institute was somewhat deep in the forest. So in spite of the best efforts, the children were not able to run out of the campus. So many such things happened during that time. And definitely that worked, at least for a few years. Then I think the government authorities came into the fore. The institute was denied its permission, and slowly it was transformed to a normal college, after which nothing has happened as special. So that's the history there.
But today, as we see that the students who are living in hostel, they have 24/7 access to hospitals, which are in the campus only. So we are also very fortunate in that respect. But all that matters is that do we have that kind of quest, or do we have that kind of hunger in our mind that yes, we can dedicate all our hours to learning and to learn the art of practicing.
Yeah, there are two things. Number one, you should have excellent models in front of you, in the college, in the hospital, in the classrooms. You should have excellent, amazing models, role models. Then you will work hard. Then you will set your own targets. I used to say, even the first sloga of Ashtanga Hridayam is an attempt to make out such a phenomenal or such a towering model in front of you. That Apurva Vaidyaya Namostu Tasmai. So that Apurva Vaidya actually is a model. Every learner has got the enthusiasm that one day I also will become an Apurva Vaidya. But unfortunately, that Apurva Vaidya is now sleeping in that first sloga of the Ashtanga Hridaya. You don't find any Apurva Vaidya in real life. You don't find any Apurva Vaidya among your teachers. So that is one part. Number two, whatever you say, the charm of a profession is ultimately decided. I don't make any judgmental comment on it, whether it is good or bad. But the reality is, the charm of a profession these days in the society is just out of the money, the quantum of money that profession is making. I have heard n number of times that if you introduce Ayurveda in the school syllabus itself, more and more students will start understanding what Ayurveda is from their school days, and that will let more good brains into the academy, and students will have some sort of a getting into the Ayurveda by choice, not by chance. It is 100% wrong comment. It's 100% wrong notion. Otherwise, we should have crores of postgraduates or PhDs in history, because we are seeing the history lessons from the very school days itself. We should have crores of this graduates and postgraduates and PhDs in other areas like geography, because you are familiar with the geography from your school days itself. Meantime, after your +2, you are going for marine engineering, or you are going for astrophysics, which you have not even heard during your school days, because that profession has got the attraction. People are running after medicine not because of the charm of the service mindedness, but out of the charm of gaining money. So the way in which Ayurvedic people are living in the society is also a decisive factor as far as this sort of an involvement, dedication, and attempt to master the science is concerned. That is what I understand from it. So these two things. So you have to set very, very phenomenal role models by your own life so that your students will be attracted by the way in which you behave, by the way in which you live, by the way in which you see patients. You put up your own life. So that is one way of doing it.
Yes, sir. We have already covered this. Sir, this is a very basic question that is being asked, from all the prof students first year, let it be second year, third year. What are the career options after graduation and post graduation specifically? If someone is going for post graduation, what should be why are they doing this? Just for the sake of an umbrella for 3 years that they don't have to, many of the times even I see that when people are opting for research because they want to escape the reality here that okay, we are not capable enough to practice, let's go for something else. And rather it had been an option like I am capable of this thing, now I want to achieve this also. So this kind of attitude is not very much prevalent in the students as we see, because when it comes to career options, they are not able to understand that what all are the opportunities that we have got, so that we can work in that direction and we can achieve our goals in those directions. So that is also not.
Okay. I'm audible now? Hello, am I audible? Can I be heard?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. See, uh, what the career options are actually really good or great, I should say. But the thing is that, see, after the graduation, obviously you have to go for becoming practitioners. Of course, there may be exceptional cases like somebody who is focusing on the manufacturing sector, so in the marketing sector, all these things, good, no doubt. But basically, I think after graduation, you are supposed to be a confident, good grooming Vaidya, no doubt about it. That is what the course is basically meant for or should be meant for. But I think after post-graduation or parallel to post-graduation, what generally we see is either they tend to go for parallel practice building without focusing on what they are supposed to do during their PG studies. Otherwise, another incident what is happening in their PG studies is they take up illogically huge assignments as part of their dissertation works, and they end up in completing that dissertation alone without getting the sort of mastery or scholarship in the branch which they select for. These are all results of bad guides in their PG classes. The PG guides should be wise enough. They should have the common sense about what they are doing. But many times, as everybody knows, common sense is not so common. And what we can do in a practical sense, that is more important. We should generally, during the BAMS level, as I told earlier, because of the sort of philosophical jerk and the pedagogical jerk what we go through, there is some sort of a disconnect between the Ayurvedic graduate and the society at large. That happens. We start speaking a different language. We start seeing the world in a different light. And during the internship period itself, you should be keen enough to regain these lost skills of communicating with the society. That is very important, which is not happening. These days, during the internship period, students are keen or over enthusiastic about for their PG entrance examinations. That should not be the case. During the internship period, they should regather their lost skills to communicate with the common man around the society. Then things will be much, much easier. And if at all they go for this post-graduation, it should be logically designed. The dissertation should not be the last word in their PG. They should start communicating very well to the academic world around, and they should look up for parallel learning. There are n number of courses available these days in the social platform itself. Media like, or academies like this Udemy or Coursera have opened up n number of opportunities for anybody to learn whatever they want to. So during their post-graduation studies, they have to focus on the specialty what they have taken. They have to limit their dissertation to the minimum possible intervention or whatever the subject of selection is, whereas they should expand their knowledge horizon. They should know where the world is moving, and they should get connected with the world around always, invariably. Then I think the career options are so huge. You can also go for some short modules during your PG studies. I have many examples to comment on. See, I am working on a specialty area of care of autistic kids. So in this field of autism care, maybe it is going to be one of the major areas of care that our society needs, maybe in the decades to come. But unfortunately, we are really deficient of experts. Ayurvedic concepts are very, very rarely introduced into this area of care of special children. Forget about autism spectrum disorder, any other branch. So if you have a post-graduation in Kaya Chikitsa or post-graduation in any of the branches added on with the basic concepts of counseling, or a master's which is available in the distant mode these days in clinical psychology or in special education or in occupational therapy or applied behavioral analysis, I think you are going to be a different species indeed. You are going to be a man or a woman of a different class. Somebody who can amalgamate the concepts of applied behavioral analysis with the Ayurvedic concepts of mind. Or if you are a Bhaishajyam PG, okay, forget about getting enrolled or employed in a big company. Instead, you focus on some unique way of doing things, like coordinating a group of practitioners, good practitioners, and making some sort of a network between them. And you assure that they will be getting the best quality medicines for a limited quantum or bulk. So it is more like a consortium of practitioners, a small consortium of practitioners, wherein things will be done together, setting up a new type of a cooperative model. So there are many opportunities in public health. I think now that is becoming more attractive. I have seen a few good Ayurvedic graduates getting enrolled into the domain of public health, master in public health, something like that, which is going to be a a major area of social intervention. Even when we have masters in public health, unfortunately, after their completion of masters, they forget about the Ayurvedic principles. That should not be the case. There is space for Ayurvedic principles in public health. So that should be your core area. That should be your strength. Then I think you are going to be a unique employee everywhere, wherever you go. There are many NGOs looking for candidates with high caliber for interventions in public health. So if you have got an edge over the rest of the candidates with your post-graduation in some of the Ayurvedic branches, I think you are going to outshine others. So there are opportunities, but unfortunately, there are no seekers. We look for some job in some self-finance colleges, or we look for some small clinics around where we'll be practicing allopathy, giving a couple of injections a day and getting some sort of a bread and butter by the end of the day. So we don't understand what is our real strength is. That's the problem. Is it clear?
Yes, sir. Sir, at times we are only limited for, behavior that is seeking employment, but we should look on to something that we give employment to others.
Exactly.
We should be capable.
Exactly. You said it.
Yes, sir. So, sir, one final question for you, sir. What should be the ideal daily routine of a student of Ayurveda?
Sorry, can you repeat the
So, what
question?
should be the
What
daily
is?
routine of a student of Ayurveda? How should he or she frame his day so that
I did not. Can you just repeat? What
yes, sir.
should be the
So daily routine.
daily routine?
Yes,
Dinacharya.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Dinacharya of an Ayurveda student. Oh, that's a tough question. after going through the entire Ashtanga Hridayam, at the end of the day, we are asking what should be the Dinacharya for us. Anyway, it's a good question. I think during these days of academic learning and academic exercises and preparing for the examinations and everything, I think you can at least, I would say what my guru used to tell me. He always used to tell me that you should learn, you should read at least 2 chapters of Ashtanga Hridayam every day. That was a very simple suggestion, but that has very enormous amount of strength in it, because going through the Ashtanga Hridayam again and again will make some sort of a srotas ready inside, wherein the Ashtanga Hridayam will start traveling through you. So every time you travel through Ashtanga Hridayam is an example. You can make it anything else, doesn't matter. So the more and more you travel through Ashtanga Hridayam, it is something like traveling through the same route every day. Of course, there will be many things you will be seeing again and again, but there will be many things which you will be seeing afresh. So that is a good, very strong, very powerful suggestion, that you read Ashtanga Hridayam at least 2 chapters every day. And another thing is, be very honest. Don't preach what you do not practice. So try to put Ayurveda in your own life, live Ayurveda, and then start doing or preaching it for others. That is definitely going to make a significant change, no doubt at all. And you will feel it, experience it.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. So, if there are any questions from audience, they can put their questions in chat box. We have already taken up 3 questions from audience. So, if there are any questions, so can we? And if there are not, we can conclude the session. Sir, I would like to quote a thought from another friend of ours. He always say that when it comes to Ayurveda, it is more like Lord Hanuman, that a reminder of humans' hidden potential, and we need to realize our potential in many ways.
Actually, yeah, we are Hanuman, and society reminds us about our potential every day. But unfortunately, this Hanuman has no ears. That is the problem. We don't hear it. The society is looking towards Ayurveda, that this Hanuman will jump and reach the Lanka one day. But and he is reminding constantly, the society is reminding us, see, you are not a monkey, you are Hanuman. But unfortunately, we don't hear it,
We are busy
because
thinking.
we have to put one mirror in front of us. That could be the best option.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And it was a very enlightening session for all of us. And there are days when we want to go back and reflect upon on the on many things that we have been doing, and do we need to make a change, or do we need to introduce something else. So it was a very I would say it was a very beautiful day for me as well as for other students, because we got the opportunity to hear from you, and we could get all the answers from you. Thank you so much, sir, for giving your time and patience. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed talking to you all, and it will be great if, I think, at least a couple of the delegates in this room take up some strong decisions to move forward as Vaidyas. Definitely, I think things will change, no doubt at all. No doubt at all. Ayurveda, the future is of Ayurveda, and Ayurveda is for the future. So no doubt at all, things will change, and I will find more smiling faces. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Namaste. Good
Namaste,
night.
namaste, namaste to all of you.